That's right. They were so popular. But, well, last week we heard from the company they made $1 billion of loss in the latest quarter and were cutting 4,500 jobs. Well, now a consortium of Canadian investment companies has offered $4.7 billion to take the company private, as Mark Edwards now reports.
Finally, a suitor for Blackberry. Having recently fallen on hard times, the once dominant maker of smartphones has found someone willing to pay $4.7 billion for the troubled company. Fairfax Financial, a Canadian firm that already owns 10% of Blackberry, has agreed to join forces with an unnamed consortium of other buyers. The move would take BB private as their share price continues to slide from a high of $148 in June 2008, which is now languishing at around $8 a share. Just 5 years ago, BlackBerry was the major player in corporate email, but the company has failed to move with the times.
It's more for businesses. There are far fewer things to download in terms of apps, and lots of things that can be found on the iPhone aren't available for BlackBerry, so it's not really very attractive.
It's like the market has spoken, right? Like a lot of people want touchscreen phones that browse the internet very well, and it seems like BlackBerry just couldn't create a phone that fit that demand.
The brand never shook off its tag as a corporate accessory favoured by politicians and businessmen, rather than a must-have smartphone for all consumers. Unable to match Apple's iPhone for cool or the sheer range of devices from Samsung, it soon fell behind the competition. BlackBerry's BB10 phones, based on a new operating platform, were billed as marking the turnaround in the company's fortunes, but they failed to gain market share. Last Friday, the Canadian phone manufacturer announced it would slash 4,500 jobs, or 40% of their global workforce.
Well, shares in BlackBerry, Claire, were suspended just before that announcement of the offer for the company, and they've really fallen a huge amount over the last few years. Look, from a peak of $144 to just under $9 on Monday.
So how are the rest of the markets looking?
Let's take a look at Asia. We see most of the markets in the red. Just the Nikkei in Japan managing to be pretty flat for the time being. They got a bad lead from the US, where markets were also down. And one of the things worrying investors is the latest twist in the battle over public finances in the US. The current fiscal year there will end next Monday, the September the 30th. Now, the government, in order to keep spending money, it needs what's called a continuing resolution from Congress. But we're seeing one of those battles that we've seen a lot in the past over this, a lot of toing and froing between the president, between the Congress as well.
They love their brinkmanship.
They love their brinkmanship, and they're probably going to take it right up to the wire. Now, the European Commissioner for Economic Affairs, Olli Rehn, is in New York at the moment, and he was talking about the fact that it doesn't just have an impact on the US, all of this. It could have an impact in the rest of the world as well. Let's take a listen.
I trust that the common sense prevails in Washington, so that the US can avoid excessively negative consequences and that we don't have spillovers, ramifications in the rest of the world economy.
Olli Rehn there speaking in New York. Well, let's get to some of the day's other company news now. And Microsoft has unveiled the latest version of its tablet computer. Sales of the Surface have disappointed so far. It's estimated that the first version failed to get more than a 2% share. Well, the company says that new model is faster, more powerful, and can run more applications.
US car maker Chrysler will list on the stock exchange for the first time since 1998. Majority shareholder Fiat has been trying to buy the 41.5% block of shares from the current owner, a healthcare trust. The decision to list the shares on the stock market came after the two failed to agree on a price.
And Air France won't be investing more funds yet in the struggling Italian carrier Alitalia. It wants to raise €300 million to help with its turnaround effort. Air France-KLM owns a 25% stake in the Italian company, but the Air France board met on Monday and said it still needs more information before a decision can be made.
Finally, a big perfume store on the Champs-Elysées has lost its battle to open late in the evening.
That's right. The Sephora perfume store, they're all over France, all over the world, in fact, but they have a flagship store on the Champs-Elysées, which has been opening until 11 o'clock, midnight rather, during the week, and 1 a.m. in the morning at the weekends. But the union took them to court to say that they shouldn't be allowed to open after 9 p.m. in the evening, and they've now won that battle, so it'll have to start closing a bit earlier. Well, not all the employees who work at the store seem to be happy with the decision.
We're asking ourselves how we'll manage to get by until the end of the month. 9 p.m. isn't midnight, and we were used to working at these hours.
We wanted to work the nights. We chose to. It's voluntary. We're not forced.
Matthew Warren, thank you for that roundup of the business news. And of course, you're back a little later.
That's right.
Now it's time for web news, starting with more on the hostage crisis in Kenya.
Where some of the gunmen from the Somali Islamist militant group that stormed a shopping centre in Nairobi, Kenya on Saturday and carried out a gruesome attack, Western nationals. An Al-Shabaab spokesperson posted a list of names on the group's Twitter page before the account was removed by the social network's moderators, and according to this list, some of the attackers were American. Terrorists that could have been recruited from the state of Minnesota, where there's a large Somali community. For some years now, the Al-Qaeda-linked organisation has been trying to lure new members who have grown up in the United States through propaganda videos like this one. It was aired on the internet last month and tells the story of 3 trainee fighters who leave Minneapolis to join Al-Shabaab training camps. Omar Hamami, aka the American, is or was the most famous of these Western jihadists. Born in Alabama, he would call for holy war and try to recruit people to the terror organisation through his rap songs in English. He was reportedly killed on the 12th of September, a year and a half after posting this video message online in which he claims to have received death threats following internal conflicts within Al-Shabaab. A viral video by comedy group All India Bakod is using sarcasm to raise awareness and address the rampant problem of sexual assault and rape of women in India. The clip, entitled "It's Your Fault," features 2 actresses performing in English, explaining sarcastically why women are generally to blame if they are attacked, because of what they're wearing, for example, or the fact they were walking alone at night. It's obviously tongue-in-cheek. It's a way of openly criticising the arguments perpetrators of sexual violence put forward when trying to justify their actions, and the video has been met with widespread commentary online. Web users have hailed the initiative and think using dark humour to approach a sensitive issue is a good way of reaching a wide audience. Many are saying the video should be used as part of a prevention campaign and aired on the television, adding it should be translated into the different regional dialects spoken in India so the message can be conveyed to as many people as possible. But although the vast majority of people in India approve of the video, some have called the approach into question. This YouTube user, for example, says using humour to deal with a very serious problem may have an adverse effect. This other web user shares a similar sentiment and worries that the irony of the clip may be lost on some people, who she fears could well take the message conveyed at its face value.
To elucidate further, here is a pie chart. And as you can see,
French web users have taken to social networks in their droves and have been posting under the hashtag Équipe de France de Basket, following France's victory at the European Basketball Championships. France beat Lithuania in Sunday's finals, and messages have been pouring in online ever since, praising Tony Parker and his teammates for their great sportsmanship and dedication throughout the 2013 championships. Supporters are now hoping the French team will claim the World Champions title at next year's tournament in Spain. Computer security researchers Nick DiPetrillo and Robert David Graham have raised around $20,000 in donations from web users to crowdfund a reward for the first person or group to hack the new iPhone's fingerprint reader and pick the biometric lock. And it took just 2 days to find a winner. Hackers from the Chaos Computer Club claim they've tricked Apple's biometric reader by printing a high-resolution image of a user's fingerprint onto a transparent latex sheet. The young woman in this video isn't going to forget her marriage proposal in a hurry. Her boyfriend got down on one knee whilst the lovebirds were enjoying a spot of wakeboarding on a lake. And as we can see in this clip, which is currently doing the rounds online, she said yes.
A lighter note there. Quick break now for the weather, but stay with us. We'll be keeping you up to date on developments from Nairobi. Security forces there are fighting what they describe as 1 or 2 gunmen still at large in the complex. Gunfire was heard a little earlier. All the latest shortly. Don't go away.